record the session? Yes, I am recording the session. That's fantastic. So it's a great start. So welcome to the breakout room. I'm Andy Smith, Smart Water Strategy at Anglian Water. And also co-hosting this session with me is
Emma Grace, Cybersecurity Analyst at Anglian Water.
Brilliant. So what we're going to go through today is Emma's just going to do a little bit of housekeeping because we're going to try and do a little bit of modern technology to hopefully get you interacting in a different way and in a digital format. It went okay yesterday, but what I would say is I'm sure this group can do a much better job than we did yesterday as we're recording everyone. So Emma, do you want to just run through some of the logistics of our little roundtable session?
Yeah, of course. So let me just start by copying and pasting this link into the chat. There we go. So you should get that through any second now. So those of you who haven't used a Miro board before, it's essentially a virtual whiteboard which will let us add sticky notes, add text, add any shapes, and just generally collaborate on any ideas that we have. So conscious that some of you may not have used it before, we thought we'd start with a little introduce yourself session to give you a chance to get to know how the board works. So moving around the board, you can drag and drop using your mouse. If it's a touch screen, you can also just use your touch screen to move around. Along the side here, you'll have a menu of different items that you can add. This one here is a sticky note, and you can choose loads of different colors. Just pick your favorite. So what we'd like you to do to start with is to find where you sit on this little table here. So me personally, I work for a water industry, and my main focus is many of those. So I'm going to stick myself in the bottom here and put my name and the company I work for, and then make it a little smaller so we can fit more people in there. And just stick that right there.
And the great thing about this format is that we can save this and then we can share this with everyone. So the more stickies you put on, the better it will be. We'll also take notes as we go through. So as we engage with you and get your feedback on certain things, we'll take notes and we can also populate at the end as well. So anyone who's not comfortable, would be great if you could turn your videos on so we can see who you are. The other thing I don't know if you've got, if you want to say anything, in the bottom of the screen there is a reactions button. Which has got a smiley face on. If you want to actually say anything, and hopefully you'll see this on mine, is I just put the thumbs up, and then hopefully you can see me with my thumbs up, and then I'll come to you as we go through the chat, okay? So if we could get started on this, we've then got a small presentation just around what we want to talk about today. It'd be great if you could start to interact on the board just to say who you are. And what I'll do is I'll do a verbal one going down the list at the same time, okay? So I'll start with you, Peter. If you'd just like to introduce yourself verbally, and then we can crack on with the session. Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. Actually, it's forcing us to create a Miro account. So it came back as a request to you, possibly Emma. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, we'll sort that out.
Let's try this now then.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you.
I'll send a new link.
No worries. So I'm Peter Diffley. I'm with a company called Trihedral. It's a company that manufactures SCADA, SCADA software called BT SCADA. And I'm, I guess, working in the industry for nearly 30 years now, based in the US, but from Ireland, as you can probably gather from my my accent. And that's here.
Brilliant. Stephen, you're next on my list. Hi, welcome, Stephen.
How you going? Yeah, Stephen Harrison. I'm over here in Australia. I work for a UK company, Metasphere. We're a telemetry provider, so not a operator or in a water utility itself, but deal in quite detail with our end users in how they're trying to implement technology and what they're looking for in their solutions.
Brilliant. And next on my list is Simon. Hi, Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon Dukes. I'm a technology fellow at Evoca Water Technologies, and I'm here in the United States. We are a company that does a number of things. So we are a solution provider, technology provider, and we also operate mainly industrial systems. I look at innovation and how we use technology and what comes next.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Simon. Next on my list, I've got Ray. Hi, Ray.
Hello. Yes, my name is Ray Mahoney, and I'm from Denora Water Technologies, and we do solution providing for water and wastewater disinfection.
Right. Excellent. Next on my list, I've got Shirley. Hi, Shirley. No. You're on mute, Shirley, but I'll go to Sam. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi. 1 second, sorry, turning the camera on here. Hi, my name's Sam. I'm a graduate student at the Yale School of Environment, and I'm specializing in water science and resource management. And I have background in data analysis for a flow metering company.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Right, let me just see who else we've got on my list. Emma, Andy, Peter, Stephen, Simon. Have we gone to Simon? Yes, we've done Simon. We've done Ray.
Sorry about that, Andy. I had to take care of our youngest SWAN member. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley from the SWAN Forum. I lead innovation and strategy, and I'm currently on maternity leave, which is very difficult, and excited to be here. I always end up being on Andy's roundtable sessions, and they're always informative and engaging. So thank you to you and Emma for leading this.
Thanks for the build up, Shirley. Right, we'll crack on into it. Hopefully you've got access to the Miro board now. Is that okay? And then we'll just run through our quick presentation, and then we'll get into the meat and bones of what we've got. So Emma's done the session overview. We'll give you a really brief overview of Anglian Water, some key principles that I work to in terms of SMART. We'll talk about how Emma's utilised the SWAN layers within Anglian Water, which has been a really insightful, exciting piece of work with a number of benefits to us as an organisation. Then we'll touch on collaboration, which will start to form the discussion that we want to talk about, and then we'll go into the roundtable discussion and we'll pose some questions that hopefully we can all interact with, which will be great. Yeah, so if you want to move to the next one, Emma, that would be great. And so when we talk about Anglian Water, we are the largest water and water recycling company in England, Wales by geographic area. We have a number of challenges that face us going forward. So one of our big challenges is that we are the driest region in the UK, with only 2/3 of the average rainfall of the UK. That equates to about 600 millimetres of rainfall per annum, which puts us on a par with somewhere like Jerusalem, for instance. So when you start to think about England being this naturally green landscape, actually we do face some challenges. The other challenge that we face within Anglian at the moment is we are, outside of London, the fastest growing region. So it's predicted we will have 175,000 new homes built within our region by 2025. So we already serve 7 million people. So you can start to see how this plays out. So we are classified by our environmental agency as being water stressed, when we have to do a lot of work on leakage and demand management as part of that to actually make sure that we have a sustainable water company going forward. We operate over 38,000 kilometres of water main, which is enough to go to Sydney and back. So it's quite a massive infrastructure that we've got, which is geographically dispersed. We currently employ more than 45,000 people. And when you look at our strategic direction statement, which forward looks 25 years, which we republish every 5 years, it's about making the east of England resilient to the risks of drought and flooding. Now, the flooding one's very interesting as well, because 28% of our coastline is actually below sea level, and a lot of our area is below sea level as well. It's also about enabling sustainable economic and housing growth. Now, the key word there is around sustainable. You'll hear a lot talking about build, build, build coming out of COVID. It has to be done in a sustainable way. And when we talk about that, we want to be a net zero carbon business by 2030. And then the other thing that's really important to Anglian is how we invest in our communities, but also how we achieve significant improvement in terms of the ecological status of our region as well. So our catchment management and the way we interact with people who interact with the catchment is really important to us as well. So Emma, if you could move to the next one, that would be great. So the 3 principles that I always try and work to when we're talking about SMART is actually, the first principle is around understand. So the first thing for me is always, what problem am I trying to solve? What do we also have available now at our fingertips in terms of data, processes, systems, technology that we can utilize? And if we get this piece right, it enables us to understand our current performance of our catchments and our systems in terms of how much they cost to operate, how they're performing hydraulically, but also in terms of carbon, the risk and the outcomes that we have to deliver. It also enables us to understand.
I'm so sorry to interrupt like this. I just want to make sure that you're able to record.
I am recording, Shane, and no problem.
Excellent. Enjoy the room. See you.
Brilliant. Thank you. It also enables us to understand those true root causes of the problem. And what we're seeing with smart technology is really enabling us to get down to the true root causes of a burst main, for instance. So traditionally, it would just be that the asset has failed, but actually there's a lot of other interactions that go on to cause that burst main to happen. It also enables us to understand how our assets, people, and our processes and technology interact. And this is really, really important. And we'll come on to this because people are ultimately part of that digital twin that we've talked about a lot as well. And it also enables us to understand what solutions we need to put in place to meet our customer expectations and our business outcomes. So the next principle that we work to is around maximizing. So it's about how we integrate the existing data that we've got, our systems and assets. And the key here for us in the UK is around being efficient and exploiting the investments we've already made in previous AMP cycles. And this enables us to surface this into one view of performance. So you can see we've had traditionally a number of legacy systems. We're now pulling these all together using our OT platform to actually produce dashboards which give us this overview of everything we've got. The other thing is we actively collaborate around investment opportunities. So traditionally we would look at investment in silos within the business. Now we're really exploring how we maximize that investment to enable multiple outcomes. And a key one of that is around the digital twin. And really that's about getting the best bang for your buck. If it was your money, how would you treat it? And I think that's the way we're moving in the business. And it's also about maximizing the benefits in terms of collaboration of our internal and external networks, learning from best in class. You know, Anglian Water, we're very good at some things, but we're always happy to learn from best in class. And the key here is about how we engage with our supply chain. So we're very proactive in terms of how we work with our supply chain to even further enhance their products. So we actively want to collaborate in that space, and we want supply chain people to actively collaborate as well. And the key here is about getting the right people involved. So within Anglian, we've got a wide breadth of skills and knowledge from within our business. And actually we need to utilize them and leverage them to drive change within our business, okay? Right, so the last one that we actually do is act. So we get those first 2 under our belt and then we decide what we're going to do. And the key here is that we work to our company values at all time. So we've got 3 core company values, which is about the fact that we're always exploring. It's about doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing for our people, our business, but mainly our customers and the environment and the communities we serve. And fundamentally, it's about building trust. We want to be a trustworthy organization. And the key there, that when we do this, we must consider those future challenges that we face. So even the stuff that we're doing now, we're meeting tomorrow's challenges today. And it's really important for us that we do that. But ultimately, it must align to our business outcomes and our strategic direction. That's our outcomes wheel on the right-hand side. And you can see at the heart of that, water is our business, we handle with care, and we don't cost the earth. So that's the statement that we all abide to. And you can see on those outcome wheels, there's things there around delighted customers, supply meets demand, flourishing environment, and a positive impact on the communities that we serve. And we've done a lot of work during COVID around that. I'm going to pass on to Emma now, who'll just talk briefly around what we've done in terms of SWAN layers, which will hopefully get you an understanding of how we believe we're becoming smart.
Yeah. So those of you who are kind of engaging with SWAN quite regularly will probably have come across the SWAN layers. The original 5 layers running from the physical assets that we want to gather data about, all the way up to the applications that we use to turn that data into knowledge. At Anglian Water, we've done things a little bit differently. We've added 2 layers on top, which include the business processes and the business goals. And this helps us link all our OT, our IT, and our processes all the way up to what we're trying to achieve in the business. So as you can see on the right-hand side there, that's a condensed version of the SWAN model that we've built, with all the layers color-coded and showing the connections between the physical assets, the operational technology, the databases, applications, and then up to the processes that they link to, and all the way up to the goals, whether those are KPIs or just internal goals that we like to meet. We've also represented this in terms of a source to tap view, and it's all about engaging both the operational side of the business as well as the technical information services side of the business, so that we're creating a common language that we can use to evaluate these systems and find opportunities to improve. Anything to add on that, Andy?
So one of my questions I always ask you, Emma, is when is this work going to be finished?
Never. I like to stay in a job. No, it's everything that everything that we do in the business is constantly trying to improve for our customers to meet our goals. And if that's the case, if we're doing that right, then this should never stay the same. We should keep improving every single aspect. So using this model, we can analyze the system as it is and find opportunities for improvement, but also use it to model any other opportunities that we've identified elsewhere and make sure that those align with what we currently have in the environment.
And the key there, we now use it in our innovation section. You'll have to excuse me because the RAF are just flying over my house. We use this when we have new products and new innovations come in to map out how they would fit into our existing infrastructure. So we do that now before we even undertake a pilot. So it's become a really useful tool. The other thing also is it becomes a really useful tool when you're talking to your board about investment. So we can actually clearly show how it's driving an outcome within the business. And I think that's been really useful, the common language aspect of this. Carry on, Emma.
Yeah. So for each of those layers, it's not just about creating a pretty picture, it's about trying to get as much information into that image as possible. So obviously not when we're looking at the whole thing, it might get a little bit crowded, but we can single out sections and start to add in data objects. Now, one of the themes that we addressed yesterday was about how data should be treated the same as our physical assets. So we want to know where it sits, who interacts with it, we want to know how it helps us achieve our goals as a business. So by connecting it to the physical assets that we're gathering that data from, all the way through to the business processes that it supports, we can identify areas for improvement in data quality, in the way that we handle our data, and in the processes, as well as all of the metrics for each individual layer as well. So I've put quite a few on there, but if we single out, for example, cost, we can use that information to track everything that we're spending all the way through physical layer, sensing and controlling, collection and communication, data management and display, data fusion analysis, and even in the business processes, to make sure that the money that we're spending is going towards the business goals and that it matches what we're trying to achieve. So we're not overspending in areas where we're already achieving those goals, and we're not underspending in areas that we need to put a little bit more effort into.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. So the last slide, I think, before we go into the section is around collaboration, and collaboration is a really big thing for me. And I just put a quote up the top there, which says, "None of us is as smart as all of us," from Ken Blanchard. And this really starts to talk about the next session we want to do, because this is about harnessing people's knowledge within the group. But within Anglian Water, we have our own networks. So we have our own Water Innovation Network, which I'll encourage you as suppliers to have a look at if you want to introduce any technology into our company. We also have our academic networks, where we work closely with a number of universities in the UK who specialise in water. Just recently, we've also set up in the last year a leading coalition piece of work with Vitens and Global Omnium, where we openly share innovation. We do staff exchanges, we use each other's training facilities. So that's between the Netherlands, Spain and ourselves, which has been really, really valuable. The other thing which is quite unique within Anglian Water is our shop window, where it's basically our incubator hub. Absolutely fantastic. We're promoting new technologies in there, but it's really about what the water company of the future would look like. So I would encourage you to have a look at that. I've also got on there the Beacon Project and WaterAid. So we actively collaborate in that space, and I'm fortunate enough to be part of a project team that works in Nepal with the Nepal Water Supply Corporation, along with WaterAid, really trying to drive a project which is a 15-year alliance, which is growing all the time, to drive change with regards to SDG number 6. The other thing is our external network, so SWAN, leading utilities of the world, Isle, British Water, Uckware. We actively participate in these groups, and the value we get back into our business, I can't estimate enough. The other thing that's really important to me and I'm passionate about is how we engage with supply chain. There's a few of our key supply chain people with regards to smart operations that we use, but we actively collaborate with these guys to try and enhance their products for the betterment of the wider water industry. We're not interested in IP. It's not what our game is. We want the best products out there for everybody to use. We've got some great pieces of work that we've done with Avaro recently on fixed correlating noise loggers, where we've advanced that solution quite considerably. We get an advantage being early adopters, but the rest of the industry can now use it, okay? So I think we wanted to go on to the session. We've got 30 minutes left. So we wanted to really start to explore how are you mapping and managing your current smart water estate. If you're not a utility, it'd be interesting to sort of think about how we would do that. What gaps do you think currently exist in smart water network offerings? And I think this is a really interesting area. You know, there's a lot of solutions out there at the moment. How do you make decisions on which ones are right for you? And how do we collaborate to accelerate the adoption of smart water networks? A really important point here. And I think COVID has actually enabled some of this, so we can actually collaborate in a much better way. And then what challenges do we need to overcome to accelerate the adoption of smart water networks? And we've touched on data management, those types of things. So if we could move over to the whiteboard now, Emma, we'll start to get into some of those questions in detail, hopefully. So it's great to see that we do have a few stickers. The other thing is you can actually plot from where in the world you are by just clicking on that red dot. And then just simply moving it across to show us where you are. And that would be really good, but I'm assuming that it's all different times of day for everybody. And then there is a question that Emma's got on there. So it's named the quote, which is quite interesting. So your future is whatever you make it, so make it a good one. Does anyone know where that quote comes from? We've got some more people in our room as well, so that's good. So I think you can unveil
access to the board. Do I need to post the link again?
Yeah, it might be worth posting a link to everyone just again so they can interact with our board. Hopefully you're finding this entertaining as well as insightful. I think that's the way we wanted to try and... Hi Prabhu from Stantec, how are you?
Good Andy, how's it going?
Yeah, we're not doing too bad, mate. We're just trying to get to grips with modern technology. we're trying to use an interactive whiteboard scenario. I don't know if you're familiar with Miro, so.
We sort of used a different version of it the other day as part of the cybersecurity one.
Oh yeah, the Idea Lab. It was Mirren.
So what we'll do is we'll leave this board open for a period of time as well, so you can actually play with it as you want. So Emma will leave the link open for you. So if we move to the next board, you'll start to see how we're going to move through this session. Okay.
Yeah, so I've linked all of these together so you can find it either by zooming out and moving over, or by following this arrow over this way to the right.
So we've got some stuff in here. So this was about how we're mapping and managing our current sort of smart estate. So anyone from a utility would be good if you want to put your ranking there with regards to your maturity. I think, Emma, if you just want to show how you do that, I think at Anglian we probably sit at a 6 at the moment, assuming that 10 is the ideal state. We've still got a lot of work to do. You can just pick a shape, drop that on.
Change the color.
Just sorry to interrupt. Emma, do I need to be signing in? I don't see anything.
It should give you
if you go in the chat box, you should just see a link to
you sign in.
But if you want to just talk about any, if you want to,
sure.
We'll take some notes and we'll add it in for you as well. So that was the whole purpose of the session, if people aren't comfortable with it. So just shout up and then we'll try and get. So does anyone want to just, I'm not sure if we have got anyone from a utility on. Does anyone want to give a view as to where they think the industry is as a whole in terms of mapping and managing their current sort of smart estate? Can I pick on you there, Peter?
Go ahead, Andy. So if we're taking 10 to be the most mature, I take it, is it?
Yeah.
Or is that 1? Which way do you want to?
Yeah, well, 10 is the most mature. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think someone has put a star on the middle. I'd say it's probably maybe a 6 to a 7 personally. I think in terms of maturity, purely because I think it's I mean, there's a lot of technologies, I think, Andy, out there. I'm not sure everyone's aware of, you know, what can be done yet. There's lots of discussion. There's lots of I guess you know, discussions around AI, predictive analytics, you know, advanced mapping of systems, but you know, being able to integrate that and create value, I think is the challenge right now. Many disparate systems. I think that is the challenge with the industry. So I'd kind of say we're on the middle, maybe slightly past the middle to, like I said, a 6 maybe, or a 7.
Yeah, great. Anyone else want to come in on that? Sam, any views on that, being a sort of graduate welcoming you to the water industry?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to hear a utility perspective on this, but it seems that kind of connecting different branches within the utility would be helpful, increasing internal communication, and again, bringing in people who are familiar with this technology and are kind of able to integrate more of it into the utilities.
It's a really interesting point. So one of the questions we've got at the bottom there, which is how do we ensure our end user requirements are met in terms of this digital space? So how we engage with our own people is really important as part of this. Shirley, as a SWAN member, where do you think the industry lies as a whole?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it definitely differs across geographies as well. So when you look at kind of the leaders or some of the progressive utilities out, let's say across in Australia, I think some of them are actually nearing more of the green area, right? If 10 is the best here, maybe 8, 9-ish, because no one's perfect, right? But I think some of maybe the smaller utilities that are just starting their path of smart water are maybe earlier on in the orange, let's say, moving towards yellow. So I think it's very difficult to say, and therefore I agree that maybe a 6 is a positive outlook on what's happening in the industry. So 5 is too much neutral. So 6 is a positive look, especially with COVID, I think now as well. I think that will propel more and more utilities to invest more in long-term, at least in the strategy, if they don't have right now the investments on the CAPEX side, because I think we spoke about that yesterday, that most is focused now on OPEX. But I would say 6 is overall a pretty solid number.
That's brilliant. Prabhu, would you like to have a comment on that coming from Stantec?
Absolutely. One comment that I want to make: digital is not new to our water industry. Having seen what the capabilities are, it's a matter of how they are pushing the envelope. So I do see many of our facilities being in that 4 to 5, even before they begin their journey, right? They probably don't realize it, but that having some strategic initiatives in place, they can gain some momentum, add some capabilities, improve their capabilities, right, in the specific areas what they want to focus to get to that LO region. Then is obviously the top tier, which needs to be, well, for example, if someone has an autonomous wastewater treatment plant running, automatically learning, that's where the 10 is, right? But if they have a simple algorithm-based, even statistical process control, I would say, they are in the 7 or 8. They don't need to throw machine learning or AI into it.
And I think that's why myself and Emma were really keen to do the SWAN layers piece. Was to get that understanding of what we already had and to maximize that, because everyone was saying we need to move towards this digital revolution, but actually we had a lot of stuff in this space already. And exactly. It was key that we understood what that capability was. So we've got water treatment works and water recycling works with really advanced PLC control, which we haven't exploited to its full yet. And that is absolutely key. Before we take that next step is maximizing what we've already got. And then only then will we know how we can evolve that and actually make that better. So I think this is a really interesting point, Emma, that we need to capture. So just conscious of time, we probably need to move to our next board. So Emma will whiz us across to our next board, and hopefully, if you want to shout up, just shout up. It would be great. I haven't come to you yet, Addy, have I? So hopefully we can get you to open up the conversation in terms of what gaps do you think currently exist in smart water network offerings?
Yeah, and feel free to add any post-it notes as ideas come to you straight onto the board.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I will talk more than the board, because I see that they try to teach me online, and right now, so I just left it aside and concentrate on what is matter, which is talking, all of us talking together.
Yeah.
So actually my point is exactly my comment. I just realized it. It is actually the way that we are using technology. And in this context, my point of interest in digital twin, digital journey or transformation is actually the human in the loop. Actually, and this is exactly the issue that I see as a gap in mentality even. I believe, Andy, you said something absolutely correct about maximizing what we have right now. And after that, when you would go to the next step, yesterday and the day before, actually I was in groups talking about our architecture. Actually, you need to do some strategy and to decide how everything is integrated. So one gap is the strategy, but before you get to the strategy, you will need to maximize. And when you need to maximize, one of the things you need to maximize, and in order to understand the strategy and these things, is to get the human aspect. Now, when I talk about the human aspect, I don't talk only of the engineer or the manager. I talk also of the people in the field, the operators in the field, that actually somehow they get the orders, they get the technology, they get the thing, and now somebody is expecting them for the same pay to do something totally different they never saw. And they've been subjected to different change culture or changes or whatever. Always it failed, always they're on the same place, getting orders from the same people and doing this. And so I think we should understand that these technologies that we are talking about in the specific case of water business, which has always been on the inert part of the whole range, if we talk of total industry, if we talk of pumps or whatever, but the waterworks itself was always there because people were afraid to adopt something for many different reasons. So now all of a sudden we want to change paradigm, we want to shift totally, and this might, if we're not careful and if we do not engage people, I believe might create a lot of damage. Just to give a simple example, what I mean by this is that if you have pipes, I don't know, let's say in London, but I believe also in Anglian water, maybe from Victorian era or from other places, so there are patchwork of pipes, and some of the how to move the water, this knowledge died together with some of the people, let's say 50 years ago or 40 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, we're coming here and we say, let's put sensors, let's connect them. And we do not realize that the guy 30 years ago put another parallel pipe underground, which is not mapped, but was in the head of this person and his friend. So they can do the job getting the water safely to these two old people on the top of the hill somewhere. Yeah. So I believe we should first get all this knowledge together with technology and mix that. And we should do that with different tools, realizing, and here I stop talking, realizing that humans are not robots, are not computers, and taking care of taking humans aspect, people aspect, experience and knowledge with tools which are appropriate. That's all. Thank you. Sorry.
There's some fantastic points in there, Adi. I think we've done a lot of work up front in terms of digital twin in Anglian on that human aspect. So understanding that skills gap that's there, understanding, you know, with older people like myself, am I still going to be relevant in this space? There's a lot of things to consider here, and really getting to the bottom of user requirements is so important in those user stories. I'm just having a look down here who I haven't spoken to yet. So Simon, do you want to just add on that before we move to the next board?
Sure. I think that one of the issues that we have is really evolving suites of online analytical and sensors, and giving those the lifetime that they need in the field, and the right communications to get that information back to us in a meaningful kind of way, because we can have all of the business models and all of the analytics we like, but if we don't have the data, then there's a hole.
And it's the quality of the data coming in, and that's also where, for me, people interact. So people provide a lot of that data. So when we come back to the guys on the ground, they're actually providing the data for those systems. So I suppose the question for me is, you know, it's the why question. Why am I filling in this form? Why is it important to the business? We're traditionally not very good as an industry at explaining to that. We tend to do it to people. And that's the fundamental change that we're now doing in Anglian Water. It's not about, we will do this to you. We want to engage with you to understand what you want from this, but also why it's important. Anyone else want to come in on that? Prabhu, do you want to have a comment on that as well?
Absolutely. You know, what we often see when we talk to our clients is technology is the easiest part of the game of things. You can easily solve. There's something already out there. There's a piece of software that's going to fit their needs. That's not the question. This that not having the full understanding of the end-to-end the business process, how it works, where it fits, who's using it, who's the owner of the data being produced and who is consuming it. That understanding is not quite clear within the organization because of the knowledge retention issues. What we are seeing these days is people have been retiring, that tribal knowledge has been going away, and then there are new millennials coming in. Staying within a utility for 30 years is no longer the norm. People come and leave. So not having, a lot of time has been spent in training them without having a proper structure for a full understanding of the business processes. So if we can take advantage of the business process management, if we have a better handle on that, then we can fit the technology pieces wherever we need to. That's where we see.
That's a fantastic point around the millennials, that sort of gig economy bit. And I think what we're trying to do as an industry in Anglian Water, for instance, is we want people still to have that career with us. Emma's a great example. If we excite Emma by what we're doing, hopefully we keep her. She doesn't leave after 5 years and go somewhere else. And it's about that social purpose of an organisation is really important as well. So the community aspect, how we serve our communities, is really important. I'm going to let Shirley talk for a second because she's been stuck in a nursery with a small child for a long period of time and hasn't had a chance to talk. So Shirley, give us some
Two
insight.
children, my husband and my son. Yeah, it's difficult. No, first of all, I agree with a lot of the points mentioned, and it's great to hear these conversations on the technology and social side as well. 1 second, it's the first time he's holding a bottle, and I'm missing it for this. No, first of all, I added some points on Miro, so I think if we're looking at that, that's great. One thing I've seen a lot in both talking to utilities and also on the vendor side is this challenge of procurement. So when think about kind of how can we encourage more technologies, how can we work with the supply chain when we're the utilities or the water companies, I think that poses a lot of challenges. And we tend to think of the traditional view of we need procurement to bring in the new technologies. But actually, I think a lot of the times we need to rethink procurement within the organization as well. So there's a lot of ways to think about bringing about dynamic procurement. How can you bring in technologies that are not proprietary, but work with your existing software, your existing systems, especially those legacy systems. So I think that's something where I still think there's a gap. There's no universal right way to go about procurement. And I know Anglian has a lot of great ideas on how to rethink this or how to relook at procurement. But I do still think that is a gap that I've seen in different regions. So for example, there could be the best solution out there. They have proven case studies. They have great client feedback, but they're not able to actually get the technology on the ground, or they get stuck in this pilot phase for a very, very long time. And at SWAN, and I can tell you myself personally, I'm really trying to look at how can we help proven solution providers go from piloting, which sounds great, to full-scale deployment. Because a lot of those, especially those startup companies, they're not going to survive on just piloting. So I think that's a point where I have seen a lot of gaps on the procurement side. So I'd love to hear more about also later on what Anglian's doing in this regard.
I'll catch up with you on that, Shirley, because I'm in the same space, and it moves us nicely on to the next board. Because pilots is a big issue for me. I'm not a supplier of technologies, but I understand the frustrations of a supplier when you have to do 50 pilots. So I think the next bit for me is how do we collaborate in this space? So to give you an example, the work we're doing with Vitens and Global Omnium, we've got 3 suppliers already that we're doing trials with. My view is as part of our alliance together, we do 1 trial. And then we really engage with that supplier about what that product is. And we give our overall that is feedback. But SWAN European Utility Alliance is a great way of doing it, webinars, but I'd just be interested to see if anyone's got any ideas about how we could really do more around collaboration, particularly addressing Shirley's point there. It'd be great. And where will I go next? Who haven't I spoken to for a bit? Oh, we've got someone new on our call. Rita, how are you doing?
Hi everyone, how are you going? I finally got things working, so I'm sorry to join so late in the conversation. Yeah, please don't repeat anything. I'll catch up and pitch in where I can. Okay. Nice to meet you all.
Brilliant. Stephen?
Hi, Rita. And I'll just add that Rita is part of our second cohort of the Utility Advisory Group. So hi, Rita.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, I should introduce myself. I'm from Yarra Valley Water in Melbourne.
Ah, we know you well. Stephen, do you want to comment on how you think we can actively collaborate? And then Peter, Sam, if you want to sort of just interact, that'd be great, yeah?
Yeah, look, and this is from the vendor view. So, and I was actually just writing a note on it, which is to bring the vendors in early.
Yep.
You don't have to be scared. Well, you don't have to be scared they're only going to want to offer one thing. Most vendors are reasonably fair on what they've got to offer and whether it's going to suit. But by bringing the vendor in early, it's going to bring the industry feedback into the development chain faster as well. And the more vendors get involved with a wider number of end users, the more they can test what they're planning. And by test, I don't mean test necessarily hardware or software. I mean test ideas and get their interpretation of what the actual operators want.
Brilliant. And I think I probably stood up, Shirley, about 4 conferences ago, and I said, with regards to supply chain, actually, if you understand the problems the utility has, your solution is much better. You might have the best thing since sliced bread, but if it doesn't solve a challenge or a problem that I have, I'm probably not going to buy it. So understanding the end user problems and challenges is really important in developing products. Peter, do you want to have a comment on that?
Yeah, Andy, and this is, I guess, very much following on from what Stephen said as well. We internally have a kind of a whole kind of process that I think, if you just kind of think about this from a utility perspective or a vendor perspective, it really is going back to kind of being kind of problem, solving focused totally. And like internally, we'd often say things, well, if someone says, I need a blue widget, well, that's great. That's in a spec, I need a blue widget. Yeah. But why do you need it blue? And what are you trying to achieve? What are you actually trying to solve? Because so many times what people are doing is they're just repeating history. And just because it was done this way before, and recently I was kind of trying to give an example, and I give a simple thing about check marks. The check mark on a spec, if I did one for transportation, and if I said, if I came along and said, okay, well, this transport system must have an engine, must have a steering wheel, and must have 4 wheels. Well, that's great. Well, what you'd probably get is ticking those check boxes is a scooter because it has an engine, but it doesn't have a steering wheel, it has handlebars, and it has wheels. And next to it, you could have a car. And over in the other box, you could actually wind up with a teleporting system that doesn't meet any of the check boxes, but you've missed it because your spec was written in very, very, narrow-minded kind of, this is what we're looking at because this is what we know. And really from what Stephen was saying, given the opportunity to meet with vendors, and I put on the board, I said like a hackathon type event, software hackathons. They're very good because what they typically do, and I'm just picking software purely on the basis of that it's been exploited. When you want to do something different, you bring teams together and you have a kind of a hackathon type thing to try and solve a problem. Just come at it like a brainstorming session and see what you can do. And vendors get excited by that as well. It doesn't have to be just the same teams. So that opportunity to get together would be fantastic, I think.
So just on that, there's a couple of points from our point of view. So the Water Innovation Network that I referenced in the slide deck, every now and again, we have big vendor events, but we put challenges out on that network as well. So where we've got a challenge around, say, X treatment process, we'll put that out. And what we want is people to engage back in. We did a collaborative event last year, which was really good as well. Massive hackathon over 3 days. And we've got some great opportunities come out of that. So I completely agree with you. So more of that sort of stuff.
Great, Andy. Fantastic.
Anyone else want to chip in?
Yeah, I agree 100%, Andy. And as you were talking, I promise you, as you were talking, not after, I wrote challenge-based innovation events. So I 100% agree with both you and Peter. I almost think of it as a reverse pitch, because utilities are often bombarded with so many cold emails or calls or just vendors knocking on the door, which I completely understand from the vendor perspective. But I think if you reverse that and have the utilities taking a lead role in saying, these are our challenges, we've mapped them out using data, leveraging data to map out these challenges, now inviting the relevant vendors in, and then they have to fight it out, of course, by having the most cost-effective or relevant solutions. So I think that is, I think we're definitely in agreement there.
Right, I'll give you one.
And I will mute my.
I'll give you one specific challenge to everyone on this group is in terms of leakage, right? There's a lot of technologies out there, but the piece which the UK industry is struggling with is how do we smarten up the repair process, okay? So that is one challenge that has not moved. We are still digging holes the same way we did 30 years ago, using the same techniques. That is the area that now needs focus. So if you've got a solution, please drop me a line.
Well, I do want to add a point here. There needs to be a much more better understanding of where the needs are along the value chain, right? That's the problem. We have a lot of, from a client's perspective, lots of solutions out there, anywhere from the, startup companies all the way to the, big players, big automation players, right? They're all providing, to an extent, overlapping solutions. But if the utility fully understands what their needs are along the value chain, all the way from water supply to discharge it back into the environment, what their needs are and what solutions will fit in that puzzle, then it makes easier to have a conversation. Plus also having to have a good ownership model within the utility, right? Who's the owner of this whole technology implementation program or a smart water program? That's oftentimes is what's creating confusion and frustration within the utility. Nobody wants to play in the program because they don't feel engaged or feel part of the program. So we need to have the right players in place, have that governance in there so that we have a clear set of expectations within the utility before we go out and start engaging. And that's what creates frustration for the vendors, because they think, okay, we're engaging with the client, but then they're probably not engaging with the right person who can make these decisions, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we've done in terms of mapping data owners and owners of processes in that SWAN layer piece, and we're expanding all the time. I think we might actually be able to move on to the last board, Emma, which we didn't manage to do last night, but the engagement from this group is 100 times better, and I can say that because none of the other people that were on last night were on it. So
feels good to be number one. Feels good to be number one. Andy.
Yes.
So this is the really big one here. So what challenges do we need to overcome? And we've covered some of these off to accelerate the adoption of smart water networks. I think everyone on this call realizes the potential that we have. But how do we now accelerate that? And I think COVID has done some of that. But there were some questions yesterday around, will companies stop spending in terms of OPEX? Well, actually, we need to reduce OPEX and make it as efficient as possible. But most of our smart water networks are driven by capital investment. So let's get this one going and finish on a high, should we?
Yeah. Can I say?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's connected to the other part as well. So I do believe the engagement is a huge issue to go ahead. I believe very shortly change somehow the system. I see that as an ex-vendor going around and all over European utilities, the issue of tenders. So how do you engage? I can come with a brilliant idea, do the brilliant things, everything is, and after that, by law, you must issue a tender and 3 people must have more or less the same thing, but you are the only owner of technology, so this is not according to law, so you cannot do that. So something here must change, because this is a public utility and the laws somehow need to be changed. This is one thing, very issue, and the other one is the human aspect. And with this, you will get to the right technology and right engagement.
Right, we're getting the warning that we're out of here in 46 seconds. So we'll keep the board open. So if you want to add anything, that'll be absolutely fantastic. We can save this board, which will come out as part of this. Obviously, the video is going to be available as well. Thank you for your contributions. I think it's been a great conversation. And all I'm going to say, Shirley, is based on that last comment, you need to get out more, okay?
I wrote him privately, this was the best 60 minutes of my life with the exception of my son's birth. So I really do need to be more social with people. Andy and Emma, thank you so much for leading this. We know you've been a longtime SWAN member, and it means a lot to us that you're still around all these years. So we must be doing something right. And thank you to all of you. And I think we have a 5-second countdown now.
Brilliant. Give yourself
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, everyone.
And returning, when we return from the break, I just ask that everybody uses the main conference link. As a reminder, there are 2 links that we've been using for the conference. So if you join on one and you don't see anybody there, use the other link. Just a reminder that we do, it might take a few minutes as well. So again, thank you for taking part in the interactive roundtable discussions. I don't know how it went in your group, but mine was absolutely fantastic, really stimulating discussions, and woof, my brain is excited. So again, we look forward to seeing you on the main conference link when we start back up. Take care.
Hi, Prabhu. How you doing?
Hi.
This is Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Good job with your intro earlier.
We've been using 2 links, but now.
Yeah, I finally got in.
Hey, good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
It's Michael.
Hey, Michael. Hey, how's it going?